Good evening, viewers. You're watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Chaudhary. Well, on Christmas, the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, made certain announcements which he said, and announcements which would, somewhere down the line, battle the coming of the possible third wave propelled by Omicron. At the back of it, the opposition asked many questions. We leave it for our viewers to decide whether they think it's destructive or constructive in terms of the questions that the opposition has posed. Omicron, a super mutant variant, the possibility of another looming COVID wave. COVID positive numbers steadily rising across the country. Vaccine politics once again peaking.
कोरोना वैक्सीन का अब तक का ये भी अनुभव है.
As the Prime Minister announced booster shots for those over 60 years and open vaccines for children over 15 years of age.
15 साल से 18 साल की आयु के बीच के जो बच्चे हैं, अब उनके लिए देश में वैक्सीनेशन प्रारंभ होगा.
The opposition asks, where are the vaccines?
बुजुर्गों को, 60 साल से बड़े लोगों को, कोरोना वॉरियर्स को, 15 साल से 18 साल के युवाओं को, और जो 18 साल से बड़े जिनको अभी वैक्सीन नहीं लगा, उन्हें कब दोगे, कैसे दोगे और कहां से लाओगे? मोदी जी, 3 बातों का जवाब देश मांगता है.
A political war on Twitter with Congress P. Chidambaram asking, let's face the truth, even if the government is unwilling to do so. Not all 94 crore adults will receive the first dose of vaccination before December 31st. We will not achieve 100% coverage. A very, very large number will not receive the second dose of vaccination. Responding to him, Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan said, the saddest attitude of the Congress and its coterie on every progressive step India takes never fails to surprise. First, they misled people over safety of our homemade vaccines, stoked vaccine hesitancy, and created panic by doubting the collective capability of our government. After a brief lull as India braces for the possibility of another COVID storm, the question is, are we ready this time? And in the politics, will it be citizens collateral again? Bureau Report, India Today. All right, so the questions that have been raised by the opposition, are they credible or is it just plain politics? That is what the opposition is doing. Let's cut across to our face-off this evening. I have Tuhin Sinha, spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party, Aishwarya Mahadev, spokesperson, Congress. Aishwarya Mahadev, what is it that the Congress feels that the government hasn't gotten down right? The Prime Minister made certain announcements of boosters, of vaccine to children. What is the issue that the Congress is raising this time?
Good evening, Preeti. I think first and foremost, the opposition, a lot of us have come out to speak about the fact that this policy that you have announced, first and foremost, seems absolutely impossible to achieve in the time frame that you've given yourself. Let me give you a few statistics, right? The government told the Supreme Court that the all above age of people who can be vaccinated are around 95 crore people, and that you would give them both doses by 31st December of 2021. On December 25th, the government made a few disclosures. 36 crore people are yet to get their second dose. 11.45 crore people are yet to get even one dose. There are more than 23 lakh frontline workers that haven't gotten the second dose. And here's the clincher, right? According to the government, you have over 50 odd crore vaccines that are required, but the government has a stock of only 17.74 crores. And now you add this idea of a dole of a booster dose, where you add around 25 crore more people to this mix, right? So your total requirement is 95 crore vaccines. The vaccine institutes and everywhere we're getting vaccines can produce only 11 crore vaccines a month. So this idea of being able to vaccinate everybody in a short span is first going to create panic, because people will be like, where are my vaccines? Second thing is, it is an inequitable policy, because in the previous terms, we've seen the way that people did not have access to vaccines, while some other people with better privilege did. Preeti, the fact of the matter is this. Put your money where your mouth is when it comes to getting the job done. Your vaccination policy is all over the place. And third, Omicron is rising. What is your policy on that? You haven't given us any a large or a far-reaching idea on what the policy is. You've left kids under 15 who are also susceptible to this disease, unvaccinated or outside the bracket of vaccination while foreign countries allow it. So all of we're asking is, where do you have a policy good enough to cater to the people of this country? Because you don't have the numbers, you don't have the capability of making announcements.
All right, Tuhin Sinha, why do you say, or why does the government say that the opposition is only creating panic?
Well, good evening, Preeti. Throughout the COVID crisis, we have seen that the opposition has shown a very limited comprehension of real issues. See, as of today, more than 90% of the people have received the first dose, more than 60% of the people have received the second dose. And in total, more than 140 crore doses of vaccination has occurred. The ones who have not received it, it is not because of dearth of vaccines. It is not because of shortages. It is because they have been irresponsible, number one. Number two, there are hybrid immunity in a lot of people. There are a lot of people who actually had COVID, and so they would have to wait for vaccine for a certain period of time. And number three, there are dubious politicians like Akhilesh Yadav who still in rallies say that I will not take the COVID vaccine. So it is not because we don't have the vaccines available. And the worst performing states when it comes to second dose have mainly been the opposition rule states, whether it is Jharkhand, whether it is Bengal, whether it is Punjab. And when it comes to booster dose, please understand that the booster in any, so far all the vaccines in the country, whether it was for tetanus or anything, they were taken when needed. Splurging on boosters may have its own ramifications. So we have followed a very scientific approach, number one, followed with extreme precaution, but we have not done badly at all given the size of our population. Now, we know for a fact that in 2012, when India completed 100% polio vaccination, India was the third last country to do so. That is the Congress legacy. So I don't think they are equipped to speak on these issues.
All right, okay. Aishwarya Mahadev, I want to bring you in on this because Tuhin Sinha is suggesting that the reason why the government is unable to meet the target of 31st December on vaccination is because of the opposition and states led by the opposition. What do you have to say?
No, I didn't say that. I said
okay. Tell me, what did you say, Tuhin?
No, I said there are three reasons. Some people have been lax.
Okay, that's another reason. And one of them is the opposition, right?
Number two, some people have hybrid immunity, so they obviously require a certain period of time. And number three, there are politicians like Akhilesh Yadav, and that is on record. Even Rahul Gandhi, for that matter, he has not disclosed which vaccine he has taken. Ideally, he should be proud of an India vaccine.
All right, okay. Aishwarya Mahadev, the fact is also when it came down to Covaxin, the Congress in multiple press conferences wasn't quite accepting it as something which had credible proof.
Okay, Preeti, two responses. First and foremost, it's absolutely shameful that Tuhin would like to abdicate or push the responsibility of the government of vaccinating its population and blaming the people itself. There is a shortage of more than 41 crore vaccines currently for the population that now comes under the vaccinatable bracket per se, right? So even if one person, and to say I was lax, I didn't want a vaccine, is not an argument that will, have any credence, because even if one in that 41 crore people or crores of people who need it are not allowed to get it, isn't it a failure of the government? One. Second, when you talk about we were apprehensive about the vaccines, Preeti, give us the benefit of the doubt to ask questions in terms of testing. When the Covaxin came out, we realized that the people actually getting the dose were part of the third stage of the trials, right? And any vaccine, whether a pandemic or not, we obviously wanted to ensure that people were not having untoward, reactions to it, or if it was not being dangerous or something that would have harmed them. This is not opposition politics. We're asking the right questions about for the health and the betterment of the people in this country. Tuhin can blame us all he wants, but ask him, does the country have enough vaccines to reach the goal on 31st?
No, Tuhin, that's Mr. Sinha, that's a question which has been put forth not just by the opposition, but by many virologists and medical experts who have doubted the fact that India doesn't have, and there's credible evidence to prove that as well, and that we don't actually have the credible reserves to vaccinate the kind of population we aim to.
I think that question is a frivolous question. On the day when India completed 1 crore vaccine a day, the end of August, even on that day, Rahul Gandhi was tweeting vaccine kahan pe hai. please understand, it's an ongoing process. Even as we speak, vaccines are being produced in large numbers in at least four labs in the country. So it is not a static figure at all. I don't know how they consider a given production, a given number which is available at this point of time as a static figure. Every day it is changing, and with four approved indigenous vaccines, I think we are in the best position to upgrade and to escalate the numbers in quick time. Vaccine is, we also have to make sure that they are not produced in excessively large numbers because they have an expiry date. But 18 crores vaccines in hand is certainly not a bad number. The Congress needs to be a little mature before they claim this in front of the world.
All right, okay. Aishwarya Mahadev, you're shaking your head violently. Please respond.
First and foremost, the production cap or the extent of how many you can produce in a month from all our facilities, according to the government and the people manufacturing it, is only 16.80 crore a month. We have 95.10 crore vaccines that are needed after this booster dose announcement, right? And only 17 crore. What is the population of India, Tuhin? And when over 35% of the population before this booster dose announcement needed it, and now the other added more than 25 crores, you realize you really missed the buck on this. But also when you say 100 crore vaccines or 1 crore vaccines, Preeti, fact remains that the days before and the days after that one celebration of 1 crore odd vaccines, you saw that vaccination drop down to just mere lakhs, like 20-25 lakhs, right? The fact of the matter is the BJP would love not only from plastering somebody's face on my vaccination certificate, though money comes from taxpayers, or even doling out booster doses, I'm sure, on priority to election going states. The BJP is trying to capitalize and politicize on this more. The opposition has asked the right questions, and in this country today, when you ask a question for the betterment of the people, you're termed anti-national, you're termed politicizing, or you're said, we're obviously creating fear amongst the people and they're not vaccinating. Accuse us of all of that. But Tuhin, get your government to do its job and ensure enough people are vaccinated, because you have no Omicron policy.
All right, I'm going to go to Tuhin, but Tuhin, give me just a minute. I want to, for a rebuttal question, Aishwarya, the fact is, question you on all of that, but that's separate. Over the course of the second wave, we have seen many political parties, sometimes including yours, politicize the issue. And correct me if I'm wrong, if there's the likes of Samajwadi Party, and it is a credible point that Tuhin Sinha made, where for a very long time, the Samajwadi Party didn't want to take the vaccine, but was associated with the Prime Minister. On the other hand, you have had, which you admitted to yourself, multiple press conferences where you refuse to accept the authenticity of Covaxin today.
Preeti, to ask about the authenticity of the testing trials of a vaccine is not politicization per se. It was the need for more information in the public domain, and we asked for the government to be accountable, because this is not just any shot. This can have an impact on people's lives. One, Mr. Akhilesh Yadav's refusal of taking a vaccine obviously should be condemned, and that is what the Samajwadi Party has decided to put out on as their line, and that's extremely shameful. But during the second wave, Preeti, politicization or not, you saw the way that people, civil society and the opposition rallied in terms of oxygen, in terms of also in helping and providing facilities, while calling out the government for its inability.
All right, Tuhin Sinha, the fact is, even at the cost of politicizing, if questions are being asked of the government, we all know how badly many cities were burnt during the second wave. Even if it is politicizing, if questions are being asked and if answers are being sought, what's wrong with it? Do we want to go into a second wave-like scenario?
No, we would love it if they ask the right questions. They ask questions where, they sound very childish. Like I'm telling you, you hear out what Dr. Devi Shetty has said of India's handling of oxygen crisis during the second wave. Why should I, treat Rahul Gandhi as the ultimate authority? Yes,
sir, let's not get into the India's handling of the oxygen crisis. I don't think we need a Devi Shetty or a Rahul Gandhi. The ground reality spoke for itself. So let's not get into that. Let's not get into that. You said questions raised by the Congress. The Congress right now on your panel has raised questions on whether or not there will be availability of the numbers of vaccine of those you've chosen to vaccinate.
They ask theoretical questions. The answers need to be practical. Ask any of the people to find out, go to a local center. Is there any scarcity of vaccine across the country? Like I mentioned, it is not a static thing. Even as we speak, Millions of vaccines are being manufactured, and every week the numbers would change. We have vaccinated people in far-flung hills of Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh. We haven't, no part of the country has been ignored. So I think it's a very fictitious what-if question. Whatever reserves we have now, we are also being cautious not to overstock, because these vaccines come with an expiry date, and we have seen vaccines being wasted in certain places.
Okay. And those places, on many accounts, Aishwarya Mahadev, as the BJP alleges, have been Congress-run states.
Absolutely.
First of all, Tuhin, fact of the matter is there is obviously a ceiling on production capability, and as much as you whimsically would like to say every day the number changes, maybe tell your government and the people manufacturing it then to tell us that the number is fluctuating and not putting this cap, and they themselves have submitted this number first. And second is, you get into the whataboutery of we vaccinated in Ladakh and whatnot. Preeti, go through the states that have had stockouts after the second wave and when the vaccine production happened. You decided to export over 10 crore vaccines and had not ordered vaccines for our country until August or September, if I'm not wrong, which meant that afterwards, in the 3 months following, there was a stock out. I work in rural Karnataka. I've seen that my PDO has not more than 100 vaccines a day for a population of more than 4 lakh people. And this is something I have taken to the DC also. But I will go examine. But the fact still remains, the BJP has no comprehensive, cohesive policy on vaccine management, vaccine disbursement, and also to handle Omicron. Accuse me of anything you want, and also, by the way, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, especially TS Singh, DOG recently put out a statement, and our Congress rule states do have the best compliance to the adherence of the second dose being given on time. And when they had a shortage, they asked to procure it privately because the central government was being discriminatory towards
All right, okay. Tuhin Sinha wants to come in. Yes, go ahead, Tuhin.
About Aishwarya, it only confirms that the Congress has very limited faith in our indigenous abilities. Our vaccination program has been replicated in at least 50 countries who are now, replicating our app. I think it's one of the best vaccination processes which has been followed in any part of the world, and it will be
19th in the world. Tuhin, 19th.
Can we just go one by one? Tuhin, make your statement. Go ahead, Tuhin. Mr. Sinha, please finish.
Our vaccination program has set a new benchmark for the world. This will be a case study in years to come. And look at Congress; they always have doubts about the India story. So have a little more confidence in what you see around us instead of raising these theoretical questions. I appreciate your effort, but please understand why you don't get a traction with the people, because these people don't face these problems. When they go to a vaccination center, they easily get vaccines. They are vaccinated, and within minutes they get a notification on their cell phone. This is something which many parts of the world, or most parts of the world, are struggling to establish the system. You need to appreciate that. If you can't, you will not manage to get.
But the fact is, all right, okay. As I bring in Aishwarya Mahadev, Tuhin Sinha, the fact is, many experts today. You quoted one. I can quote you 3, which have already said that if we do not, hasten our vaccine rollout with immediate effect, it's already too late.
Well, the rollout is exemplary. Like I said, I listed 3 reasons why certain numbers are lagging behind, and you can't force it in a democracy. A lot of regulations are in place where people need to produce the double vaccination certificate before boarding aircraft, or in case they haven't got the vaccine, they have. Probably we will have.
But those are your okay. I'm going to bring in Aishwarya, but whatever you pointed out, and I want to quote Dr. V.K. Paul, who heads the government's COVID-19 task force. Now, this is the man who heads the government's COVID-19 task force. He says if we see the numbers of cases in the UK, which is reeling from a surge, it would translate to 1.4 million cases in a day in India. We need to hasten our vaccine rollout plan. Mr. Sinha.
And we are making every effort, but please understand that, at the end of the day, we also have a federal structure. At the end of the day, the center can't be available in every state and every municipal corporation. So 6 states, at the end of November, a list of 6 states were out which were really lagging behind, and 3 of which, at least the ones which I immediately recall, were Jharkhand, Punjab and Bengal, which were all opposition ruled.
All right, Ms. Mahadev wants to come in. Go ahead, Ms. Mahadev.
These two states which
You know,
have
Preeti,
achieved
somebody says we can't force vaccines on people, but will force Aadhaar linkage to electoral rolls. But besides that, this whole Vishwaguru idea, the vaccine was created in India and everything, right? You know what position we're in, especially when he says the India story, why don't you believe our rollout is so wonderful? We're in 19th place. We're in the 19th place when it comes to vaccination. There are countries that have already started vaccinating even children below the age of 15 and 18. You've seen that, especially with the Omicron, right? You can talk about how
But Aishwarya, I'm sorry to come in, but isn't the eco-cultural population dynamics of this country extremely different in the countries you're quoting?
No, absolutely, right? I will admit that a lot of Western liberal countries, a lot of Africa especially, though there are African nations that are doing better than us, those conditions exist. But the same way that over years, whether pulse polio, which is one of the things that still occur every year, is a system that has been obviously perfected to the extent that we've seen cases so reduced. If you implemented that with the same policy of vaccination, especially in your primary healthcare centers, you would have had better compliance. But even for compliance, you need supplies, which do not exist, Preeti. And everything that Tuhin says cannot counter the fact that the BJP and the government itself.
With both your permission, Tuhin, I know you want to come in, but I'm sorry. I need to close the show. With your permission, appreciate both of you for joining us. You heard both points of views. We leave it for our viewers to decide. As journalists, what we are going to do is we're going to keep a keen eye on the production of vaccine, because right now, does it match up to the figures that the government suggested? No, but the government's saying it is going to increase. A quick break to stay with us. Up next is Gaurav Sawant.